Hi guys, welcome to Flash Fact. Today we're going to take a look at how to create a speedster character. Essentially, it's a question that was asked by Zaptor on YouTube. So let's see if we can try and help him out. So I guess I will need the help of a few dummies to first recharge my supercharge. And I just realized I didn't take the weapon masteries. It doesn't really matter. So essentially, I'm going to go through the various abilities that you can take as a speedster. I will, I guess, explain those I find more useful and those I find not quite as useful. But then again, a lot of that is a matter of personal preferences. You may decide to that some of the abilities that I don't like very much are actually quite useful. Quite a few of them are supercharges, which is why I'm recharging my supercharge at least a little. As you can see, I'm almost there. And if you never got the feed counters, the feed for the amount of hits on the counter, as you can see, you can pretty much do that on the practice dummies if you want to. Either in your base, or in your legal, or if you have none of those for some reason, the Watchtower has those. So let's take a look at the super speed skills. So the first one is called Speed Force. Essentially, it's just the skill that allows you to go much faster as you run. So let's demonstrate that just to be clear. So essentially, you have your normal running at super speed, and then you have what is known as the Speed Force. So as you can see, you're running at least a bit faster. So that covers that first one. So essentially, if you're making a speedster, you have no choice to take it anyways if you want to take any other skills in the tree. So let's see. I guess I'm going to tweak my loadout so that I can use all the abilities. So let us start with, let's see. Okay. So the first one would be Vortex Trap. The second one would be Cyclone Push. For the third one, I'll keep the supercharges for later. The third one will be Tornado Pull. The fourth one will be Dash Attack is a supercharge, Phase Dodge. And I guess either that's it or oh, there we go. Again, Speed Drain is also a supercharge. Metabolic Boost is also a supercharge. Whirling Dervish would be the other one. So let's take a look at those powers. So the first one, again, the first one is known as the Vortex Trap. You'll see what it does. It's quite a neat ability, but it's not that powerful or that useful. Normally, it's supposed to stun a bit, hold and stun a bit your target. Doesn't really do it all that much. The second one is the Cyclone Push. Essentially, you're going to push away your opponents. Again, with the target, it doesn't really show you that very well, but it's what it's supposed to do. So normally, it would push back at least a few of the targets, if not most of them. So, and it does a bit of damage too. But the real use is really to be able to push your targets away. And the next one is the tornado pull, which is actually your pull ability. So essentially, as you can see, it's pretty much the same ability as the other one. It's the same animation as the other one, but what it would do is that it pulls the target towards you. Sadly, we don't seem to be able to pull the sparring targets, so that's why you don't really see the target being pulled. But it's actually quite a good pull. If you watch a few of the flash videos that I made, you'll see that it usually does the trick. The next one is something called the face dodge. It's some sort of attack that allows it's some sort of move that allows you to dodge some of the attacks and certain abilities. I have to admit I never really used it all that much, so I'm not sure how effective it actually is or not. And the last one is the Whirlwind Dervish, which is a good ability. It's also your block, your breakout move. So if you get the stunned or knocked back or knocked down, this pretty much does the trick. And as you can see, it also throws down your opponents. Actually, it does that sometimes, it seems. So if you get knocked down, you activate your Whirling Dervish, and essentially you get back up and you pretty much knock down most of the enemies that are around you, and you also do a bit of damage. So it's one of the abilities that I really like. Uh, I really like this one from a role play point of view, but this one is actually a really useful one. This one and the tornado pull are the two that I'm actually using a lot. I probably could try and use this one, but I'm not too sure about that. As you can see, you're vibrating, so you're dodging most attacks. But again, I have no idea how effective it actually is, and it does burn a lot of power, I suppose, in the long run. So let's see if about some of the supercharge moves now. So there seems to be only three of them, if I'm not mistaken. Let me check it to be sure. Okay. So the first one was as you can see, if you're considered in combat, you cannot change your loadout. So we have to go away. Okay, there we go. So now we can change our loadout. So let's see. So the dash attack, the speed drain, and the metabolic boost. Well, let's see if I didn't miss out anything, just to be sure. So the speed drain, metabolic boost, and dash attack. So yeah, those are pretty much. So essentially, also you can see you have also the knockback resistant, restraint resistant, restraint recovery, knockback recovery, and breakout mastery. All the movement have those abilities. Essentially, it's going to make you a bit harder to knock back or stun. So they're somewhat useful abilities to have. So okay, we're going to look at dash attack. Essentially dash attack is a 25 supercharge cost. So essentially, it should knock down enemies and prevent damage to you for a short time. The other one is speed drain. You're supposed to drain energies from your enemies, and also you do some damage over time, and it restores power to you and your allies. So that's I would say that's a pretty useful one. And there's the Metabolic Boost, which accelerate your metabolism to heal damage, to restore power, and to protect, to rebuff control effect for a short time. So essentially, it gives you health back, and it gives you power back, and it prevents you from being controlled for a bit. So let's go ahead and try it out. So let's see. So the first one will protect us and help us do some damage. So let's lock on one of the dummies. Let's lock on this one, and let's see what happens. As you saw, we rushed into our enemies, we knocked some down, and that pretty much was it. So let's try it again just to be sure. Well, let's try it on this guy. So again, let's go. So as you saw, we essentially we acted like a bowling ball, and these are our bowling pins that fell down. So the real test would be to try it out in battle to see how much damage it actually does, and if it's powerful enough to kill at least a few enemies, or if it barely does damage to them. But that's what the supercharge does. Sadly, a lot of the supercharges aren't that useful. Almost there. Okay, there we are to at least use it once. So the next one, so that first one was dash attack, as you saw. We literally ram the enemies, and some of them fall down, and it knocks them down, and it does some damage. The other one is a speed drain. So essentially, we're supposed to drain energy from a nearby enemy, which will do damage over time and restore power to us. Sadly, we won't. We will see probably a bit of damage, but we won't really see the power unless. Let's see if I can maybe burn down a bit of power. Nah, I can't. Nah, because of the sparring targets, I'm getting power as quickly as I'm spending it. So, anyways, so essentially that power is supposed to it does damage and it's supposed to drain power. So let's see what happens. And that's pretty much what happens. So you can see the damage on the targets. And normally you would see some power be given to our character. But sadly, since our power is full because of the sparring targets, we don't see that. You saw it doesn't last that long, but it lasts for a bit. So you do a bit of damage over time for a short while. Again, it's something that would have to be tested in a mission and ideally in a group, since you do give power back to the whole group, from what I understand. So it's the kind of ability that essentially that needs to be tested in a group in order to decide if it's actually worth it or not. So let's refill it to try out our third supercharge. Okay, so there we go. So essentially the third power, the third supercharge is called Metabolic Boost. So essentially, it's supposed to heal yourself, it's supposed to restore power, and it's supposed to protect you from control effect for a short time. We won't see the protection from control effect, and odds are we will probably won't see well any of those actually, since our health is full, our power is full. But let's try it out anyways, just to see what happens. So it's pretty much that simple. So you can see those lightning effects. So I guess the ability lasts for as long as those lightnings are there. So during that time, you gain power back, you gain health back, and you're protected from control effect. So for all the speed abilities, that's pretty much it. I will show you what I actually use with my character. So as you can see, I do use the Metabolic Boost for my supercharge. But that's for essentially for my DPS. Usually I'll DPS just when I'm by myself. In a group, I'll probably play as a healer most of the time, unless there's another healer and someone decides that two healers not really worth it. So essentially, what I'm using for as the speedster powers is the Whirlwind Dervish. As you can see, it's my breakout ability. So if I get knocked down or held or anything, I just use this, and it allows me to break out of whatever is controlling me. And the other one is the tornado pull. Essentially, it's my pull ability. So for the rest of the loadout, essentially I use Electrogenesis, which is essentially damage over time. I use Arc Lightning, which essentially does damage, but also can heal you a bit. Uh, Even though you're not in healer mode, it still will heal you a bit, but nowhere as much as if you were in healer mode, obviously. Metabolic Boost, again, it allows you to heal, it gives you back power, and it protects you from control effect. And there's Electrocute, which essentially does damage to a whole area where you cast the ability. So I will just show you. So you start with Electrocute, then the damage over time of Electro Burst, and probably Arc Lightning. And then you do a few attacks, and you Arc Lightning again. Ideally, there's a power back mechanic with Electrocute. Like, as long as Electrocute is going, my other two powers will give me power back if I use them. But of course, if I use my pull or my Whirlwind Dervish, I will not get power back. Although the Whirlwind Dervish, essentially I'm using in the speed powers. In the super speed powers, you have like restraint recovery and knockback recovery, and even breakout mastery. So when you take those abilities, essentially when you break out, you will gain some power back. So essentially, it says that you gain 70 powers back over 10 seconds. Although that seems to be like the basis, because your vitalization seems to influence the amount of power you get back. So the more vitalization you get, the more power you will actually get from that. So as you go up in level, or as you gain better gear and more vitalization, you will actually gain a bit more power than that. So and also, as I mentioned, essentially Electrocute. Where is it? Okay, Electrocute will electrify and polarize your enemies. And also, if you cast it when activated after adding an Electrocharge, you will gain power back. And you have other abilities like so essentially, Arc Lightning will give you power back if you add an Electrocharge or if you use it while Electrocute is active. And the same with Electrogenesis. Essentially, I should probably use Electro Burst because it does add an Electrocharge. But anyway, so usually I'll use Electrocute, then Electrogenesis, then Arc Lightning, and I'll attack a bit. and I'll use arc lightning again to gain a bit of power and a bit of health. And then I'll start the cycle again: electrocute, electrogenesis, arc lightning, and through that I'll do probably some weapon combos while my powers are in cooldown. So that's pretty much it for super speed. I probably could go over it with. Well, I have another character which has super speed also, but it's pretty much a copy of this character, other than the weapon. The main difference is that they both use different weapons. But for essentially, you have the basis for a super speed character, and pretty much what all the powers do, and you get something to a first step to try and creating a super speed character. But of course, you can I'm not saying this is the definitive way you can create a super speed character. It's just the way I did it. So you could use that as a starting point and then tweak the powers as you see fit, or tweak the abilities or whatever. So that's it for now, guys. So hopefully I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.